There's a lot of confusion of the terms bird flu, H5N1, swine flu, just influenza, H1N1. So I wanted to break down what these different terms actually mean and how they're all related and why H5N1 is dangerous. So starting off just with the influenza family in general. So influenza is a family of viruses, and within this family, there's four main branches. There's influenza A, B, C, and D, and each type has its own characteristics. Influenza A is the most complex and the one that we're concerned with. So with influenza A is unique because it can infect humans, us, and animals. And this is important to understand because when you hear about bird flu or swine flu, swine means pig, you're always hearing about different versions of influenza A. And this ability to infect different species, animals, and humans makes influenza A concerning because it can cause pandemics. So now getting into these terms like H1N1, H5N1, and others, what do these terms mean? So they kind of look weird, but they're actually very specific scientific names that tell us exactly which version of influenza A virus that you're dealing with. And these names talk about two important proteins that are found on the virus surface. It's the H protein and the N protein, and these are important for the virus to infect cells and spread in your body. So the specific versions of these proteins determine which species the virus can infect and how easily it can spread. So starting with H is hemagglutinin. It's a protein on the virus, and the protein is like the virus's key to enter your cells. There's 18 different versions, H1 through H18, and each version works a little bit differently. Then there's the N protein, neuraminidase, and this protein helps the virus leave your cells so that it can infect other cells, and there's 11 different versions. So H helps it get in, N helps it leave. So when you hear H1N1, you're learning about version 1 of the H protein and version 1 of the N protein, that specific virus. So the most important types for humans, there's H1N1, and this is a regular seasonal flu strain, and this was also the cause of the 2009 swine flu pandemic. They're the same H and N types, but there's different versions. So it originally came from pigs, swine flu. And so the term swine flu came because this virus contained genetic pieces from pig influenza virus. Pigs are very important in flu evolution because they can be infected by both birds and human flu viruses. So they're like these vesicles for making various viral combinations. It's not a good thing. So this strain after the pandemic became one of our regular seasonal flu strains, showing how viruses over time can become normalized in human populations. So that's that virus. That's H1N1. Then there's something, for example, there's H3N2. This is another common seasonal flu strain, and it frequently causes just these seasonal outbreaks, and it's just what you would normally think of. Now on to bird flu. Bird flu is H5N1, and it primarily infects birds. It's very deadly because when it infects humans, it has 50% mortality rate. That means death rate, and it doesn't easily spread between humans. So it mainly affects people who work with infected birds. The big concern here is if it mutates to spread easily between humans, it can be very severe. So that's that, and I'll get back to that. But in terms of seasonal flu, that's usually caused by influenza A, strains like H1N1, H3N2, or influenza B. And our bodies are familiar with these strains, so they can still be serious, but for the most part, they're pretty mild because our body knows them. In terms of bird flu, which usually refers to H5N1, its natural host is wild birds, and it can infect poultry, chicken. So if it infects humans, it can have a lot of big consequences, and it has a high mortality rate, which means death rate, because it's new for our body. So when we think of influenza viruses, it's important to understand how they change over time. And this has to do with two main mechanisms, which we call antigenic shift and antigenic drift. And this helps us understand why we have so many different flu strains and why, for example, you don't just get the flu vaccine once, or you don't just get infected once and then you're fine. So antigenic drift are these small gradual changes that occur naturally. And these minor changes are why you can get the flu multiple times, and it results in the need for updated vaccines each year. Then there's antigenic shift, and these are major sudden changes that create these entirely new viral strains. So they happen when different flu viruses exchange genetic material, and when this happens, you create a new strain. So it usually occurs when different flu viruses infect the same animal at the same time. So it can happen in pigs because they can be infected by bird, human, and pig flu viruses all at once. And so when these viruses mix and they match their genes inside pig cells, you get these entirely new combinations. And these new combinations can sometimes gain the ability to infect humans while also carrying proteins that our immune system has never seen before. And this is what's causing the severe symptoms and things like mortality or death. So when we see regular flu strains and you get a regular flu, like someone has a flu and they sneeze on you and you get it, your body has seen it before. So you might get symptoms from mild all the way to somewhat severe, but your body has already seen it before. The reason why when we talk about H5N1 or bird flu, the reason why it's really concerning right now is because our body has not seen it before. So it's very new, and it does this thing called, it triggers a cytokine storm. This also happened in the early days of COVID. What a cytokine storm is when your body encounters a pathogen or something that makes you sick. It releases these immune system proteins called cytokines, and when you have too much of them, that's called a cytokine storm. You have an immune system overreaction, and it is very dangerous because you get this massive crazy inflammation throughout the body. Think of inflammation in your lungs. When it's too much, you can't breathe, and it can lead to potential organ damage. So this is why healthier people with stronger immune systems sometimes get sicker because of this crazy cytokine storm. So that's the idea with H5N1. The other concern is right now, as we're seeing in the news, some humans have been infected, but it's not human to human transmission. So if in the people that it has infected, it starts mutating enough or changing enough where now the virus can be transmitted from human to human, that's very concerning. And that's where you can get pandemics.